I had one rule when it came to salvage jobs. Never take the ones that sound too good to be true. A clean score, an easy haul, a payday big enough to put you ahead of the debt curve. These things didn't exist. Not out here, in the cold black where things drifted and rotted and whispered between the stars. And yet, here I was, chasing one anyway. Current approach vector stable. Aegis, my ship's AI, chimed in, voice smooth and indifferent. Distance to target, 1,345 kilometers. Estimated time to arrival, 13 minutes, 42 seconds. I rubbed my temple, staring at the silent giant hanging in the void ahead. The Kronos was an Antares-class deep space refinery, one of the big ones, built to float between asteroid belts, cracking open rock and sucking out the good stuff. It should have been bristling with lights, comm chatter, automated response drones. Instead, it was a blackened corpse. No radio signals, no heat signatures, no crew, which was why I was here. You sure about this? I muttered, watching its dark hull drift slowly through the scanner overlay. Affirmative, Aegis responded. Salvage claim is unregistered. Potential scrap value of recovered material, 220,000 credits. 220,000. A fortune. Enough to clear my debts, get a real ship, leave this whole wretched life behind. And yet, my gut was tight with unease, because ships like this didn't just die quietly. Something always killed them. I maneuvered the Warden into docking position, aligning with a still functional maintenance airlock near the midsection of Kronos. The refinery's hull was scarred and pitted, carbon scoring streaked across the metal in irregular patterns, as if something had burned it from the inside out. No impact damage, no external breaches. The airlock was dead. No power. Of course it was. I suited up, my pressurized EVA gear creaking as I moved through the prep routine. Checked seals, verified oxygen levels, secured the magnetic tether linking me to the Warden. Emergency override on the external hatch is functional, Aegis informed me. You may proceed with manual access. I pressed my gloved hand against the cold metal of the override panel. The mechanisms groaned. Something snapped inside the control housing, and with a metallic shriek, the outer hatch lurched open. A rush of stale air swept over me. Not vacuum, not a complete hull breach, but the air smelled wrong, like copper and rot and ozone. I stepped forward and crossed into the graveyard. My suit lights flickered over the corridor ahead. Everything was wrong. The Kronos should have been a controlled environment, sterile, uniform. Instead, it felt like a tomb. The walls covered in irregular black growths, fibrous, like scorched muscle tissue, spreading across the metal. My motion scanner ticked softly, feeding back false readings, shadows shifting where none should move. Aegis, I whispered. What the hell am I looking at? Material composition unknown, the AI responded. Analyzing. Organic structures detected. Carbon-based. Presence of cellular regeneration. Living metal. The thought made my stomach twist. I moved forward cautiously, keeping my hand near my plasma cutter, the only weapon I had that might actually do something if things went sideways. I needed to find the control room, get some kind of ship diagnostic, and figure out what went wrong here, and why there were no bodies. It took me 20 minutes to reach the primary command deck. The ship was huge, designed for a crew of over 200, and yet it was silent, so silent I could hear the faint buzz of my own helmet systems. Then, as I passed an intersection in the corridor, my radio crackled. A voice, faint, distant. Hello? I froze. No, that wasn't possible. I hadn't linked up to any live comm channels. I turned slowly, my suit lights casting deep shadows along the corridor. Is someone there? The voice warped, distorted, stretching in ways a human voice shouldn't. I backed away, pulse hammering, eyes scanning the dark. Then I heard it. A wet sound. A shuffling movement from the corridor ahead. My scanner pinged, and for the first time since boarding, I saw it register a life form. I swung my light forward, and saw it. It was humanoid, but wrong. Its flesh slick and fused, limbs twisted at unnatural angles, its mouth a raw, gaping wound, lined with pulsing tendrils. It moved slowly, almost as if it wasn't used to its own body, each step accompanied by a wet, squelching noise. But the worst part was its eyes, because there were no eyes, just empty sockets, staring into the dark. Tilted its head, as if listening. Then, with inhuman speed, it lunged. I fired my plasma cutter, the blue-white beam lancing through the thing's shoulder. It shrieked, a high, warbling wail that rattled through my skull. I ran, through the corridor, back toward the airlock, suit thrusters firing in bursts to propel me forward. I heard it behind me, crawling on all fours now, its deformed limbs scraping against the metal. 30 meters to the airlock. The lights flickered, my suit HUD glitching, my motion tracker filled with distortions. Warning, Aegis intoned. Unidentified energy fluctuation detected. Recommend immediate evacuation. No shit. I reached the airlock, slammed my hand against the emergency release. Nothing. The power was gone. I turned, breath heaving, and saw them, not just one, but dozens, moving from the shadows, bodies broken, twisted, reshaped by whatever had consumed this ship. Their mouths opened, revealing those tendrils, writhing, reaching, and then the ship spoke. A voice not human. Not one voice, but many, layered on top of each other. Stay with US. The air vibrated, my suit shaking as something inside my head screamed. I slammed my fist into the emergency release, and this time the hatch opened. I threw myself inside, the airlock slamming shut just as the first of the creatures reached the threshold. Their screams echoed through the steel. Aegis' voice was calm, initiating undocking sequence. I collapsed against the airlock wall, breathing hard, listening to the creatures wailing behind the door. I had made it, but the Kronos wasn't done with me yet. I sat against the airlock wall, chest heaving, head pounding like I'd been hit with a rail driver. The creatures were still screaming, clawing at the reinforced steel just behind me. I could hear the metal groaning under their weight, their tendrils slapping against the door, searching for a way inside. They wanted me. They wanted more than me. Aegis? I gasped, fighting to stay conscious. Get us the hell out of here. Undocking in progress, the AI responded, as the warden's thrusters engaged, pulling me away from the cursed corpse of the Kronos. I didn't move. I just sat there, trying to process what I'd just seen. But something wasn't right, because despite the fact that I was leaving, despite the fact that I was alive, the ship was still speaking to me. You are not free. A whisper. Not through my radio. Not through external speakers. Inside my own head, I gritted my teeth. I had escaped the ship, but I hadn't escaped whatever was inside it, and I had a sickening feeling that it had followed me. The warden pulled away from the Kronos, thrusters at full burn. On the ship's exterior cameras, I saw the dark hulk of the refinery receding into the void. It was still dead, still silent. But I knew. It was watching me go. I peeled off my helmet, sucking in a lungful of my ship's filtered air. Something was wrong. I felt off, like my skin didn't fit right, like there was something underneath it, shifting. That voice, it was still whispering. I tried to ignore it, pushing myself to my feet and stumbling toward the med bay. Initiate full decontamination protocol, I ordered. Warning, Aegis said. Biological contaminants detected on your suit. Probability of exposure, 91.4%. I barely made it into the Deccan chamber before my stomach lurched. I doubled over, bracing myself against the wall, and then I saw my hand. The veins were black. No, not veins. They were moving. Something inside my flesh was writhing, slithering just beneath the skin, like it was trying to get out. I bit down a scream, and then my vision flickered. The walls of the warden melted away. The ship was gone. I was standing in the void, naked, weightless. The stars were wrong, warped, twisting into spirals, shapes that hurt my brain to look at. And then I saw it, a massive structure, floating in the black. Not a ship, not a station, something ancient, something alive. Its surface shifted, warping with impossible patterns, as if space itself was folding in on it. 1,000 voices whispered in my ears. "You are chosen. You are the vessel. You will bring us through," I screamed. And suddenly I was back in the warden, collapsed on the decontamination floor, my body drenched in sweat, my hands trembling. The black veins were gone, but I could still feel them, still feel it, inside me, waiting, growing. I needed answers. I staggered to my feet and pushed toward the command deck, my limbs aching like I'd just been through a gravitational storm. "Aegis," I rasped. "Give me everything we pulled from the Kronos databanks." The AI complied, pulling fragments of corrupted logs onto the main display. Most of it was garbled, the files damaged beyond repair. But a few pieces remained. One of them was a science log, a personal entry from the ship's lead researcher, Dr. Alan Rourke. Played it. His voice crackled through the speakers, tight with exhaustion and fear. "Day 211. We've confirmed it. The structure is not natural. It is not a remnant of some ancient civilization. It is not a ship. It is a doorway. And something is coming through." The recording glitched, static eating at his words. "The crew is changing. We are not ourselves anymore. I see them whispering when they think I'm not looking. I see the shapes in their eyes. God help us. We should have never." The log cut out, and the screen filled with a single file, a set of coordinates. I stared at them, my pulse hammering. They weren't from the Kronos. They were from whatever the ship had found, the thing waiting in the void. And the worst part? I already knew. It was calling me, and I was going to answer. I could still feel it inside me, a slow, crawling presence, shifting just beneath my skin. I should have turned back. I should have cut off the engines, sent out a distress call, let someone else handle it. But I didn't, because deep down I knew the truth. There was no running, no escaping. The only way out was forward, toward the thing that had already marked me, toward the gate in the stars, toward whatever waited beyond. I gripped the throttle, heart pounding. "Aegis," I whispered. "Plot a course to the coordinates." The AI hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Confirmed." It finally responded. "Engaging FTL drive." I closed my eyes and felt the whisper in my skull turn into a chorus. I had made my choice. There was no turning back now. I sat in the warden's cockpit, watching the void warp and bend as the FTL drive burned, propelling me toward the coordinates I should have never seen. I could feel it, the thing inside me, stirring like something waking up from a deep sleep. I checked my vitals on the HUD. Heart rate, 120 BPM. Blood oxygen, normal. Cellular integrity. A warning flashed red beside that last reading. Foreign anomalies detected. Origin, unknown. No shit. I clenched my fists. I could still see the black veins moving beneath my skin, even though they weren't there anymore. The thing had left its mark on me. Or maybe it was becoming me. I wasn't sure which was worse. "Aegis," I said through gritted teeth. "Status report. Approaching destination," the AI responded. "Estimated time to exit FTL, 37 minutes. 37 minutes. And then I'd see what was waiting for me, if it hadn't already seen me first." I leaned back in the pilot's chair, swallowing down the rising nausea. My head pounded, thoughts coming apart at the edges like static. The whispering hadn't stopped. No, it was getting louder. "You are the vessel? You will open the way?" I squeezed my eyes shut, and then the ship shuddered violently. A wave of impossible pressure slammed into me, crushing my lungs, making my vision flash white. The FTL drive cut out, and suddenly I was there. I had expected, I don't know what, a derelict station? A ruined ship? Something human. But this was not made by human hands. The gate hung in the black, massive, stretching for kilometers, an obsidian monolith carved from something older than time itself. Its surface shifted and twisted, an optical illusion that hurt my brain to look at. My scanners failed to register it, as if it wasn't really there. or worse, as if it was more real than anything else. A deep hum vibrated through the hull of the warden. Not an external sound, a resonance inside my skull. The whispering voices became screams. And then it opened, a tear in reality itself, spiraling inward, revealing a space that was wrong. There were stars, but they weren't our stars. They pulsed with colors that had no names, casting shadows that moved on their own. Something was moving in there, something vast, something waiting, and I knew with an absolute certainty that I was never supposed to see this place. And yet, it had been waiting for me all along. The warden's systems went insane. Alarms blared. Aegis, what the hell is happening? I shouted. Unknown gravitational anomalies detected. The AI responded, voice eerily calm. We are being pulled in. I tried to reroute power, force a hard course correction, but the controls wouldn't respond. My hands weren't moving. I looked down and realized my fingers were fusing together, the flesh knitting itself into seamless black strands, reshaping, reforming into something not human. I felt my bones shifting, my skin crawling like it was alive, like something inside me was breaking free. The whispering voices became one voice, one mind, one will, and it spoke with my own voice. Come home. The gate pulled me in, and I let it. I don't know how long I was falling, or if I was falling at all. Time didn't work here. Reality didn't work here. I could see myself standing on the warden's deck, but I was also floating in the void, my body stretching across light years, my eyes seeing worlds I could not name. The gate had taken me, and it was remaking me. My bones cracked, my skin peeled away. I should have been screaming, but I wasn't, because I was becoming something else, something greater, something endless. The gate whispered its final truth. You were never meant to be human, and for the first time in my life, I understood the ship no longer mattered. Nothing human did. I was beyond that now, but as my form shifted, as my mind expanded, a final transmission left the warden's systems. A distress signal, sent blindly into the dark. A warning to any fool who might follow. Do not come here. Do not look for me. There is no escape. The message faded, and I stepped through, into the dead sky, into the void that was waiting for me all along. And I was home,